Digital video games are clearly the future. What kind of consumer benefits can we look forward to, and what do we have to give up in return? Let me know how you feel in the comments below, but first, my opinion. I'm Tarmack, and this is Feature Creep. It's amusing and somewhat sad to look back at the E3 Xbox One debacle. I have a hard time figuring out if the decisions Microsoft made at the time were done with dollar signs at every turn, or whether a small but very genuinely excited group within the Xbox team itself had visions of changing the industry for the better. I say this because while the overtone of the whole deal felt incredibly suspicious, I was left with a lingering feeling of what we were missing out on by stapling Microsoft to the wall over it. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go back on what I said about the dangers of lost privacy or consumer rights. The loss of used game sales, game lending between friends, 3D infrared camera in the living room, they're real concerns for me, but it did get me wondering a bit to see the Microsoft staffers almost pouting that what they were trying to do didn't resonate with gamers. We know that digital is the future. Physical media is expensive to produce and distribute, especially compared to downloading. It won't go away completely for some time because the manufacturers still need the retailers to set out shelf space and sell the hardware, but it's the games that are the high-volume, higher-margin items. We could very easily see physical discs in the boxes being replaced by download codes in the same boxes on the shelves. And digital is a good future for some things. Losing or breaking discs is no longer an issue. There is significant convenience to be had in not having to go shopping. However, there are significant drawbacks as well. Server issues on launch resulting in those who have purchased being unable to download and install the product, the penchant for cut content to sell later as DLC, the burning desire to pretend that server-required authentication is a consumer benefit and not just another form of DRM, the inclusion of systems to track and record user data which inevitably gets sold to advertisers and other marketing groups, let alone the proliferation of personal information hacking problems that have occurred for major companies previously trusted with that data. Moving everything to an online model does have its pitfalls. But there is a silver lining. It will take some time and some consumer advocacy to get to, but I believe that as gamers we can be the voice of reason. Yes, we're going to have to give up some of our previous rights and privileges, but there are huge gains to be made as well. For starters, the idea of digital refunds is one of extreme importance. EA has started this with the Origin change, and now we need to see Uplay and Steam do the same thing. From there, we also need to see Microsoft and Sony get involved for digital console titles. It's a difficult dance because story-driven games can for some be finished in a matter of hours, but then again, the game companies are tracking how far people get into these games by achievements and other things, so perhaps a timer not based on days, but rather on hours played would be a better measure for the refund process. Then we have the idea of sharing with friends. Steam just announced the ability to authenticate multiple devices with a single Steam account. This allows family and close friends, as they called it, to share their library of Steam games. There are some limitations, of course, but it's a move in the right direction. I've mentioned this before, but I also like the idea of tiered games. I don't care about the Call of Duty multiplayer, but I'll play the single-player campaign, so why do I have to buy the full game when I'm only going to utilize maybe half of it? This model was seen to some extent in the chapter-style design of The Walking Dead, and I think it would be great to see it be expanded into the market on the whole. It gives the games a bit of an opportunity to reach a much wider audience by providing cheaper content and letting people only pay for the parts that they'll use. The idea of piecemeal content also brings into focus the ability to enable online trading or sales of digital products. Now, obviously this doesn't work as well for single-player because a single-player digital copy could bring in one new sale and numerous used sales as people finish and then resell the game. But for multiplayer, the dev is relying on ongoing DLC releases for their income. By increasing the reach of the game and allowing gamers to sell their used copies to people who otherwise wouldn't be willing to pay full price, the game simply gets into more hands. The primary problem is that marketplaces need to be set up with the big distribution platforms like Steam and Origin. Hopefully, some movement will be seen on that front over the next few years. This is the future of digital games as I see it. We do have to give up some autonomy because without the basic disk and drive DRM, we're stuck with at least some variant of online authentication. However, looking at what Microsoft was doing with the original Xbox One reveal, you can at least see some of the positive in the features that they were trying for. That said, there's still no excuse for a camera that can identify a face, tell whether you're happy, sad, or even looking at the screen, all of which have the single benefit of allowing better targeting of advertisements. What do you think of the idea of tiered video games, selling single-player and multiplayer separate, that kind of thing? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, hit up the subscribe button so you don't miss any videos. That's all I have to say. Tarmack out.